Hi, everyone. Good morning. Happy Tuesday. Welcome to this week's weekly live immigration attorney chat here at Immigration for Couples. If you're new to our firm, I'm attorney Megan Pastrana, and my firm Immigration for Couples is dedicated exclusively to helping couples across the nation and across the world in navigating the U.S. immigration process. So we host these weekly live immigration attorney chats because we know knowledge is power, and to give you clarity and the labyrinth, the maze of immigration. I see we have a lot of individuals joining us here already. I had a couple minute late start. I was fussing with Instagram, and so hopefully I am live on Instagram. Yeah, it looks like I am. I'm actually live on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Instagram. So a lot of coordinating, but on all 4 platforms. So depending on where you are watching. All right. And also, I'd like to start out. Some of you, our regular listeners, know the drill. Please tell me where you're at in the world. I see Ginger is on here. It's great to have you back with us. All right. And so I will spend the next 30 minutes answering any questions that you have about the world of immigration. And I do want to let all of you know, again, if you're new to our channel, about our website, immigrationforcouples.com. We have a free resource center, and our free resource center is very robust. I've created it with a lot of love and care and consideration for all of you. One of the greatest resources in that resource center is a webinar. And in the webinar, I really dive into the different options that are available to couples and what you should know at the start of your immigration journey to have a successful immigration journey. And so I really encourage you to check out that free webinar and the rest of the free resource center at immigrationforcouples.com. All right, so let's dive in. Where is everybody at in the world? Awesome. Yep. And like I said, Ginger, so great to have you. I hope you're having a great week too. All right. And I see we have a lot of really great questions in here. I'm just going to go through and see who we have with us. Julia, great to have you back. And you said you're about to send out your application tomorrow. That's exciting. One day closer. That's great. Congratulations. All right. All right, Betty, great to have you with us. We have someone here, Robert in Sacramento, California. Thanks for being here. All right. So keep it coming. We have Arizona. Yeah, good morning. New Jersey. Love seeing everybody all over the US and the world. Oh, I'm glad that you have found the videos informative. That's most of my videos come from topics and from questions that actually a lot of you ask every week, and realizing that if you have the question, probably others do too. So I appreciate the great questions. Awesome. Bulgaria and Nigeria. Cool. All right. I will jump into the questions here. All right. So the very first question I have here from BJ. Your girlfriend is from Mexico and wants to try to become a U.S. citizen on her own. She's okay with becoming a legal citizen through a green card and marriage, but wants to try on her own first. How can she go about that? So with your question, I'd like to really address something that a lot of people don't realize, especially if you don't practice immigration law, the difference between U.S. citizenship and green card. I assume that you do because you have said green card in here, but I would be remiss for not pointing out this distinction or this difference because it's really important to understand. So the green card process, the process to receive your green card or lawful permanent residence in the United States, gives you why they call it a card that has a green background, and that's where it came. That's where the term green card was coined, and that green card is permanent resident status in the U.S. Permanent resident status gives you the ability to live and work and have your life in the United States. It also has restrictions, and there are certain benefits that are not available to you as a resident that are available only to U.S. citizens. So for example, as a green card holder, you have to legally spend at least half your time in the United States. Your life and your home has to be the U.S. If you take trips outside of the U.S. for more than 6 months, you can abandon your status and lose your green card. So that's one of the restrictions on the green card. And then as a US citizen, you don't have that restriction, and you also have the ability to vote in the elections. And so as a green card holder, you're not able to do that. So just wanted to make that distinction. I know a lot of people say US citizenship and green card and permanent resident status and think it's the same thing, but it's actually quite different. Once you're a green card holder, you can go through a process to go from green card to an actual US passport and be a US citizen. So I wanted to point that out before I answer your question. So if someone wants to receive a green card on their own, one of the most common ways is through an employment-based visa. Employment-based visas are their own unique beast. My firm focuses exclusively on couple-based, family-based immigration, but employment-based is typically the most common way that an individual would be able to receive that green card on their own. Again, it's its own beast. You'd have to have a sponsor. They have basically most green card processes through appointment involves rather. Goodness, I've had a lot of appointments this morning, and sometimes I say to my team, I feel like I'm running out of words. My mind's thinking quickly. So going through an employment-based process to have an employment-based visa can oftentimes have a path to receiving a green card, but it is a long process, and you have to have a sponsor, and it's almost like a lottery to receive those visas oftentimes. So that's one thing to consider. Speaking with immigration attorneys who work in that employment-based realm might be a good place to start. But I will say that the family-based option, going through a family-based option through a spouse or a fiance, even though wait times are long and it is its own labyrinth to navigate, the process for family-based is typically more direct. There's less hoops, if you can imagine. There's already a lot of hoops for couples, but typically with the employment-based side, it's has a lot more restrictions, and it can be more difficult. And I will say most couples will explore those employment-based options and ultimately come back to us and will meet with me and say, I should have just started the family-based option. And there really is, there's no shame. I think that's nice. She wants to do it on her own. But if you're in love and you want to start a life together, you have a direct path to do that. So great question. Probably more information than you needed. I hope that was helpful, BJ. All right. Let me see whose question I have next. All right. So you want to know, how long does it take for the visa to be handed over after the interview for the K-1? So when you go to your interview for the fiance visa, they will give you a decision that day. They will either be able to tell you that they're approving the visa, or they might say that they need more documents. Maybe they're waiting on a medical exam or a police certificate, and then they will be able to approve the case later. So once the visa has been approved by the officer, it can take anywhere from a week to 2 weeks for that visa to be printed. Sometimes faster, but I'd say on average it's about a week to 2 week wait to receive the visa in your hand. All right. Okay, so let's see what's the next question here. Your fiance has a 16-year-old daughter who might choose to remain with her grandmother until she finishes school. Will my fiance be able to obtain a CR1 visa with a dependent still in Thailand? So if you're going through the spouse visa or the fiance visa process, if there are children that are part of that family unit, it's always best to file petitions for those children as well. But sometimes, especially at age 16, they have a life established and maybe educational goals and things that they want to stay in, in Thailand, like you're saying, and does not want to come to the US. So it is possible for your fiance to still go through the fiance or spouse visa process and not bring her children, as long as there's someone, like the grandmother, to be able to care for her. But I would say it's really important to have a conversation too about an understanding too, if in the future, if her daughter wants to come to the US, once she gets to really gets closer to age 21, it becomes much more difficult for individuals to bring their children. So once children are over the age of 21, you can still petition for your children, but we're talking about wait times well over a decade, sometimes much longer if the individual is from countries like Mexico, for example. So I just wanted to make sure you're aware too, if the daughter has any thought of coming to the US, making sure that happens, well before age 21. But it is possible to still go through that process without, bringing your children if that's what your family has decided is best. All right, we have a lot of great questions here. Yeah, so fair, you have your petition has been approved, and that approval notice for the fiance visa, it shows that it has a validity of 4 months, right? And so you're supposed to take action within 4 months. And really, the idea is that immigration wants you to complete that process in 4 months, the next steps with the online application and the medical exam and the interview. But the reality is that immigration wait times are long, and we are often spending most of our time waiting on immigration to make a decision. And so it takes them longer than 4 months to transfer your case from USCIS to the National Visa Center and then to the consulate. And so if your petition expires before the actual interview happens, then you will need to ask at your interview to extend that petition. What we do for our clients is give them a statement asking for an extension of that petition. And oftentimes, if there are things that our client is needing to complete that are causing the delay and not being able to complete the process in the 4 months, we'll reach out to the consular post and let them know, hey, our clients are working on obtaining X, Y, and Z documents. We do plan to move forward with the case and ask for an extension of that petition as well. So the next steps, though, are you're waiting on the National Visa Center to send you an email. And then from there, you are waiting on the consulate to send you an email letting you know that you can take next steps. And I did do a very detailed series of the fiance visa process and go through each step on the YouTube channel. So you'll want to check that out. I'm sure Julie will be nice enough to throw that in the chat so you can see that overview as well. Yeah, this seems to be the most popular rumor right now. It's interesting you brought this up because I have been asked this many, many times over the past week alone. It seems to be that there's a rumor out there, if you file a K3, that it's going to expedite the spouse visa process. I'm not sure, like most rumors, it's hard to know where they originated, but it's not true. That's actually not true. I've actually even spoken with immigration officers about this rumor, and they have confirmed that's not true. I wish it were some kind of magic solution, but Congress created the K3 for individuals who are going through the spouse visa process. Reason being is because the fiance visa process, K1, historically had been a much faster option for couples, and they were able to be together faster if they went through the fiance visa process. So Congress created this K3 as an option for couples who are already married to have a faster path. And it's been a very long time, many, many years since we've had K3s approved. And you'll even see on the USCIS website that they say it's really a very antiquated, very archaic, old tool that really is no longer being used. And the idea was previously was that couples could file the spouse visa and then the K3, and it was like a horse race. Whichever one got to the front of the line first, the K3 or the I-130 petition, that's the case that immigration would decide, and then the couple would take that path. But the reality is that the I-130 petition is still going faster than the K3. The K3 option is taking much more time. And I would say probably immigration does that intentionally. They probably they probably prefer to decide the first filed spouse visa instead. But it really, unfortunately, it's not going to speed up the process. And we've definitely filed them for our clients, making it very clear that it really is an option that's likely not going to be a fruitful endeavor, but it doesn't hurt to have two bites at the apple, but it doesn't, unfortunately, speed up the spouse visa process. So great question. You brought up that rumor. All right. All All right. So let's see who is next in the queue. So, Julia, you had another question that your fiance. Will your fiance have to submit a CENIMAR if she's never been married before? Yes, and when you're going through the process for a fiance or spouse visa in the Philippines, that is a required document, the CENIMAR or the CMAR if you're married. So it's definitely a required component. That's a part of the civil documents of the Philippines. So it's unique to people who are living and then also going through the immigration process in the Philippines. All right. Um, let's see. Does my fiance in Spain need anything else to enter the US? So your K1 was approved. That's great. Congratulations. Everybody give a yay, congratulations to Rafael. That's awesome. And the passport was delivered. So that's great. Typically, in that envelope with the passport and the visa, typically there's a sealed envelope in there as well that says do not open. Um, she would need to carry that into the United States as well. Immigration has been transitioning to a more electronic platform. So we are seeing more and more that clients aren't receiving that envelope that says do not open, that everything's being transferred electronically. So that's great. Yay, immigration. Thank you for embracing technology and not having everybody carry additional things. So, but congratulations. That's awesome. All right. So let's see who is next in the queue. All right. So good morning to you as well. For the K1 visa, is the petitioner's birth certificate needed for the interview? I sent my fiance a photocopy. Is that enough if needed? And you don't have a certified copy. This is for London. So I really recommend ordering more certified copies of your long form birth certificate for your fiance to be able to take to the interview. It's really going to depend on the immigration officer, and it also depends on the consular post. Typically, the consular post in London typically is okay with a copy, but we always have our clients take a certified version of that birth certificate to be safe. Each consulate is different, and I'll say the consular post in Mexico is adamant that they want the original or certified version of the long form birth certificate for the U.S. citizen. They won't approve it without. So it's always best to have that certified copy. So definitely order them to have. Hopefully it'll arrive on time. I'm not sure when your interview is, but that's what we've seen with London. So, all right. So you were documentarily qualified in July for the spouse visa. Your wife is from Russia. You're a medical tech for the U.S. military. Thank you very much for your service. We would get put in, or you're asking, would we get put in administrative processing? So if you're asked a question, so she's asked the question during the interview, if you're in the military, she should, of course, be honest. There are questions on some of the forms that actually ask if the U.S. citizen petitioner is in the military. And so honesty is always the best policy. It shouldn't be a reason to put your case in administrative processing, though. Of course, I don't know all of the details and background of your case to tell you that conclusively, but honesty is always the best policy. So, but congratulations on the case being documentarily qualified. That's great. One day closer, right? Getting to the finish line, the home stretch there. Okay, so what happens if the K1 interview isn't scheduled prior to that last day of that petition expiring? So that's why I had said earlier, you will ask at your interview. You can do that in writing, and then also verbally asking for the consular post to extend that petition validity at the day of the interview. And typically they will extend it, because in large part, the reason you can't complete it in 4 months is because of immigration. So, okay. Hi, Natalie. Thanks for being with us. So you're here. You're from Michigan. And you are a trans woman, but legally female. Would it be possible for me to legally marry my future husband in Pakistan? And does Pakistan need to know that I am a trans woman to marry? So each country sets their own rules and requirements for who can marry, and so you would want to check the marriage requirements in Pakistan. I would say though, if you have concerns about whether or not you're able to be legally married, the Utah online marriage is a really great option. And so I'm sure Julie will be so kind as to put the podcast episode that I did with Reverend Heron. She actually performs, she's an officiant for those Utah marriages. And the really beautiful thing about the Utah marriages is they're a virtual marriage. They were created before the pandemic even happened. There was the individual who created the idea. The name is escaping me, but Reverend Heron discusses that in the podcast. Had this idea in her mind of removing obstacles, even here in the U.S., the administrative burden for couples to get married. And so she envisioned this virtual marriage and had that process started even before COVID. And one of the beautiful things that's come out of that is that couples who weren't actually or aren't able to get married in other countries, if same-sex marriage isn't accepted, for example, or some countries have very strict requirements about your religion and who can marry. So this Utah virtual marriage had an impact that hadn't even really been thought of for the person who was creating the virtual marriage, and it's really been so expansive and had a global impact, which I think is so beautiful. So a lot of couples are looking at that Utah virtual marriage for that reason, if they're not able to get married in the place where the immigrant is living. So maybe taking a look at that. And like I said, Julie will probably put a link to that podcast in there. All right. If everybody let me know if this has all been helpful to all of you. I'd love a thumbs up or a heart, anything, just letting me know that this has been helpful. And please, if you know anyone else, who is going through the immigration process, please feel free to share our free resource center with them. If you're in Facebook groups or anything like that, if you know anyone, really, we want to help as many couples as possible have clarity and support in their immigration journey. So please check that free resource center out and share it, immigrationforcouples.com. All right. So who is next here? All right. So you got married to your wife in Ethiopia and your daughter was born there. Well, congratulations. So if you're a US citizen and your child is born abroad, typically you will want to go through a process called the consular report of birth abroad. So reporting your child's birth and going through that application process to show you're a US citizen and that your child is a US citizen as well. Because in the US, you can transfer your U.S. citizenship by blood. So if you're a U.S. citizen by blood, and also we have jus solis and jus sanguinis in the U.S. is recognized. So that means birth on the soil or birth by blood. So the consular report of birth abroad does have some certain requirements, especially for the U.S. citizen, the parent having to show physical presence in the United States of at least 5 years. It depends on when the birth occurred and whether or not, both parents are U.S. citizens. So, but starting with that consular report of birth abroad, that is really typically the process that you would go through. Sometimes children aren't eligible to receive that consular report of birth abroad, and then we would go through a process called consular processing to bring the child as a green card holder. If you want any help with that process, I'd be happy to speak with you in private during a consultation. Again, that website, it's immigrationforcouples.com, and we can walk through all of those requirements and confirm that your child is eligible for U.S. citizenship. But congratulations on the birth of your daughter. That's awesome. All right. All right, Amanda, your picture is so lovely. So How long is immigration taking right now for immediate relatives, American citizen, daughter, immigrating parents? So if you're a U.S. citizen, if you've gone from green card to U.S. citizenship and you're wanting to petition your parents, they would be immediate relatives. So you're right with that term, immediate relatives. So there are categories of immediate relatives and non-immediate relatives. Immediate relatives are spouses, minor children, and parents of U.S. citizens. What it means to be an immediate relative is that you're not subject, or your family member is not subject to annual visa allocations. So there's visa caps. There's a certain amount of visas that are available every year. And the amount of visas that are available every year fall into the non-immediate relatives. So an example of a non-immediate relative would be children of a lawful permanent resident, spouses of a lawful permanent resident, and brothers and sisters as well of U.S. citizens. And so non-immediate relatives have to wait in line for a visa to become available. And for many categories, you're talking about more than a decade wait. That's insane, right? But for immediate relatives, they don't have to worry about those visa caps. So there isn't going to be an annual allotment for immediate relatives. But if you're petitioning your parents, they do still have to wait in a line. And on average, it is still about 18 months for parents. It depends a lot on the country. Some countries, for example, have a higher volume of individuals immigrating. So Mexico, for example, it would probably take closer to 2 years is what we're seeing to bring your parents. And then in other countries, like Canada, for example, you're looking at about an 18-month wait, give or take. So, all right, great question. All right, so I still have a little bit of time here left to answer questions. So you're wanting to know, is it possible to start the process after receiving that approval notice for your petition, but before obtaining the NVC number? So yes, we proactively work on our clients' cases and start getting things ready even before that National Visa Center number. The important thing to note, though, is you can't schedule the medical exam. You can't schedule the interview. There's quite a few things that you can't do until you receive that email from the consular post. You have to wait for the U.S. Embassy or consulate to tell you that it's okay to take those steps to schedule the medical exam and your interview. But you can start working on collecting all of the documents, getting your interview packet ready, and completing those steps proactively. So we do that all the time. Aw, Lisa, you're always in such unique places. So you're at the salon in Florida. That's awesome. Okay. Oh, and then Natalie, you were asking, do you need to disclose being trans if marrying there or marrying in the US? My only option through a marriage visa. So your only option is not through a marriage visa. You could also look at the fiance visa process. I'd really encourage you to check out our free resource center. And having to disclose it for the Utah virtual marriage, you don't. But depending on what country where you're getting married, that would be country-specific rules and regulations. But in general, if you're getting married through the Utah virtual marriage, that's all through the state of Utah. That's all through the U.S., and they're not going to require you to disclose that. So, and I'd be happy to speak with you in private during a consultation. But that's really the answer, is you don't have to disclose it for the Utah marriage. And here is the free resource center. I really think you checking out that webinar would be a really, really great start from our resource center. All right. I can do a couple more questions here. So you're in Wisconsin, USCIS received your, I'm guessing your petition is what you mean, on July 5th. Based on current NVC timeframes, has my documents already been reviewed? So I don't, unfortunately, I don't have enough details to answer your question. I'm not exactly sure where you're at. I'm not clear if you mean, because when you say K-1 visa, the very first step is a petition. So if you're talking about filing that very first form, that I-129F form with all of the evidence, immigration will send you a receipt notice that has a receipt number, a case number, and you can check the status on the USCIS website. USCIS is who reviews that very first petition. The National Visa Center, though, they have a role in the fiance visa process that is limited to only assigning a case number and transferring that file to the U.S. Embassy or consulate where the interview will occur abroad. So the NVC doesn't review any documents for the fiance visa process. They only do for the spouse visa process. So I hope that helps. I was trying to answer the question with very limited details, so hopefully that helps. Okay, so well, congratulations. That's awesome that you filed for your citizenship. Good luck. That's really great. And then you did your biometrics on April 1st, but no interview date yet. So that's pretty common. Interview wait times will really depend on the state where you filed. Some states have a longer wait. It also depends on if you were doing an early file. It depends on if you're doing a 3-year, if you have a 3-year green card and filing naturalization based on marriage, or if it's 5, there's a lot of different factors. But I mean, with it only being April, that's pretty normal. We're seeing wait times for interviews anywhere from 4 to 8 months, depending on jurisdiction. So best of luck to you. Yay! Congratulations, Alex. That's awesome. That'll be such a great feeling to have that green card in your hand. I know a lot of times it doesn't even feel real. It takes a minute for it to sink in, right? Well, congratulations. We're all super happy for you. Thank you for sharing that. That's good for other couples to see the light at the end of the tunnel, right? Removal of conditions. They are taking on average about 3 years, give or take. Unfortunately, the good thing is, though, after you file removal of conditions, your green card is extended by 4 years, and they do that because they know they're taking forever to review those applications. So that's currently what we're seeing. We've had some unicorn cases, though, for clients that have come in less than 6 months. So that's always fun. But on average, you're looking at about, 3-year wait. Okay, so I can do like, oh, perfect. Oh, good. You're very welcome. I'm glad that helped, BJ. I think I can do 2 more. I always think, I can do all of the questions, but we have so many. That's awesome though. And next week I'll be able to be here and answer your questions again live. All right. I lost my place. There's so many. I was just going through and seeing how many questions we have. Where did I end up? So Amanda, we did your question. BJ. Okay. Yep. Here we go. So we just got approved for your petition. Congratulations. You have an income of 22K with over 10K of liquid assets. Should I still use a joint sponsor whose income is over 150? So the amount that you have to make depends on your household size. So first you need to start there and determine how many people are in your household. So if you have parents or children that you list on your taxes, that will be included in the household size. If you've ever petitioned for someone for immigration benefits before, they would be included in your household size. And then you'll take that household size and you'll look at something called the I-864P to determine if your income is enough. If it's not, then you're right. You can use assets, but a bunch of math, like a math class here, your assets have to make up 3 times the difference. So for example, if you were $5,000 short, you would have to show assets of at least $15,000. So it will really depend on the consulate, the U.S. Embassy officer or a consular officer who's reviewing your application. Some are fine with taking assets, and then others will just say, nope, you have to have a joint sponsor. And it's important too to know that your income will be based on your prior year tax return. I know it's so convoluted. Immigration doesn't want to make anything easy, but you'll have to make sure too that you're looking at that 2023 income. So if you have someone who's a joint sponsor, that's always really a great idea to have a joint sponsor. If you have someone who's willing to do that. Often what we will do for our clients is I like to have plan A, plan B, plan C. That never hurts. And so plan B would be using assets. And then if you have an officer that's not going to accept assets, having that joint sponsor ready to go is a great idea. So, but you're doing the right things. You have the right steps, the right ideas. So is it possible to start requesting the police reports after receiving your approval notice, but before obtaining the NVC number? So yeah, definitely you can, and just know that police certificates typically are only generally valid for a year. So you don't want to get them too early and then have to get them again. But some countries, our clients specifically from South Africa, for example, the wait times are long to get that police certificate. So it doesn't hurt to get started early. All right. I do need to jet. I do have some other appointments here today. I wish I could get through everybody's questions, but just like I had said earlier, if you have any questions, I will throw them in the chat. I will go through the chat, and I often will make videos for YouTube and Facebook. I'll make video content answering those questions. And if not, please come back next week, next Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern time. I will be here to answer your questions live again. Have a great rest of the week, everyone. Take care. Bye.